Hello everyone, I'm Annie Gibbins and you're listening to Memoirs of Successful Women, the podcast where you get to hear candid conversations with fascinating women from around the globe who share aspects of their business and life journey, how they measure their success, and what they have learnt along the way. Well, hello and welcome to Memoirs of Successful Women. Today, I'm going to introduce to you Celeste Barclay, and she is a nom de plume, lives near the Southern Californian coast with her husband and son. She's grown up in the Midwest and she enjoys much of her time in the water. So now she lives near the beach. She loves swimming, surfing, rowing, all things active. And today we're actually going to be talking about how she became a best-selling author in the romance genre. So you're going to hear her story about how did an English teacher who holds degrees in international affairs and political management, how did she channel that and go through an experience to become a prolific historical romance writer. So welcome to the program, Celeste.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
It is such a pleasure to be talking to you today. So how about we start off with, where are you at the moment? What does Celeste Barclay's life look like? How many books have you currently got out? And, how big are you, Celeste?
Well, as of this past Tuesday, I have 27. So I published my first book April 15th, 2018. In the US, that's tax day. So it was a much better way to celebrate than dealing with my taxes.
Yes.
And in the last 3 years, I've just fallen in love and have a passion for what I do and the creativity and the outlet that it lets me have. And so between having a vivid imagination, being a very fast typer, and loving what I do, I've published 27 books and I'm set to publish a total of 30 by the end of this year. So I love what I do and I do a lot of it.
You sure do. Pumping out 27 books is quite phenomenal. And to be, have such a big following. And for those who are watching on YouTube, I can see a whole lot in the background. And so how did you acquire this skill to, one, be so prolific, so quick? So you said you're quick at typing, but you've obviously got to have the scope of this, this story and what's going to happen. How did you acquire those skills to become so quick at throwing books together?
I think it's a combination of a number of things. It is a very vivid and active imagination. I'm fortunate for that. It is also the ability to be very, very focused and be able to sit down and work without being distracted by the distractions in my house. I've had 2 teenagers at home all school year. My husband has teleworked for most of the last year. And so we all have our own spaces in the house, but there's still other things going on. And I truly believe that having had kids and then going through grad school for 2 different degrees and having to work or mom during the day, and then from 8 to 11 o'clock, 8 till midnight, I did my work. Yeah. I'm very able to churn out high quality work, but in a finite amount of time. Yeah. And so that improved my typing skills for sure, but it also helped me to really know how to manage my time and maximize the results that I get from the efforts that I put in. And so, I juggled the first 2 years of my writing career being a full-time teacher and then secretly being a full-time author as well. But as of December 2009, what year are we in? 2019.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to think for a moment there. 2019, I became a full-time author. I left the classroom and decided that, I've always wanted to help people, and that's why I became a teacher. But the assignment I had was just very emotionally draining at the time. It was a hard assignment and I loved my students, but it was rough.
Yeah.
And so I started writing out of catharsis and escapism. And what I started to realize as I published and I started building this readership, people were saying that I love the escapism that you give me, that I can just relax for a few hours. And it made me realize and understand that I'm still helping. It's just in a different capacity. And yeah, it's historical and there's a lot of fact in there, but I'm not there to teach. I'm there to give escapism. And that's a different type of helping, but I find it really fulfilling.
Oh, I think it's amazing what you've achieved. There's so many things in that conversation to unpack now. So first of all, yeah, that's right. Escapism is so valuable. How often do we actually just not stop? I must admit, I'm enjoying digging into doing more and more reading because, you know, life gets too busy. And I know that after being a mum of 5, you know, that you're always on the go. You're always busy. There's always something to do rather than just to be. And so the value of actually just getting into, that's right, a historical romance book that you can just go, oh, that's right, I feel like I'm in this moment. You know, who doesn't want to do that? So absolutely massive need for that. And that's right, it's helping people in a different way. I love what you mentioned too of, you know, it's actually, you've been able to do so much of this because of good time management, because I know you had your kids pretty young, and so that's right, being able to navigate, you know, having a couple of children young around degrees and doing that. That's right, you become very efficient, don't you? You know, it's like, okay, well, I've got to, you don't, rather than competing, and you want to be in the moment when you've got with your children, but as soon as they go to sleep, it's like, right, I've got 3 hours, 4 hours, me time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I learned how to steal moments here and there to also be productive. So, you know, when my kids were at swim practice, I was writing, or before that, I was grading, you know, so I learned how to use the time that I had available to me to make the most out of that, you know, and where I might have been pleasure reading in the past, or just, you know, watching my kids swim with their faces down in the water, I started to really use that time to my benefit. And it helped me to start writing and thinking through my stories faster and making me more efficient. But, you know I'm a little bit of an odd duck with how long I can sit and concentrate for. That isn't typical. I get that. But I think it comes from the fact that I do have good time management, and I am very internally motivated and externally motivated. I'm very competitive with myself, but I'm also competitive with other people, probably not to the healthiest degree. But because of that, you know, I am hyper focused, hyper productive. And so I'm fortunate that way. That's the way I'm wired.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect combination. You want to have that burning fire in your belly that go, yeah, I'm doing what I love, right? You know, there's so many times in your life that you kind of like, go, yeah, I'm doing this job because I'm trained to do it, or I'm very good at it. But there's aspects of it that, you know, with any job that are challenging, right? That bring you down, which drain your energy. And so, and then you've gone through, which is very much reasonable, realistic, that you've juggled both. You're working full time as the teacher, going home and doing the writing at night, and then making that big, bold decision to go, all right, I'm going to give up the security and then be able to make this the main gig. So,
take up,
you know, for those who are listening in and just go, oh my gosh, you know, imagine just being an author. How does that happen? Yeah, it happens. Everything happens the hard way, right? Like that's life. You know, it actually happens because you're disciplined, you're driven, and then you make the journey that, you know, if I do this, if I get some started while I'm working, I can then be able to afford to make it my main gig. And I just so love that. And then, and I love that competitive nature of yours. So, you know, global domination of as an author.
I'm working on it.
I'm your way.
I'm diversifying my portfolio with audiobooks and translations coming up. So yeah, you know, between the writing side of it and the business side of it, it really has given me an opportunity to explore skills and strengths I didn't realize I had that are very necessary, because I would say writing is about 30-40% of what I do, and then business is the other 60 to 70%. I am an entrepreneur. This is my job, and this is my woman-owned small business. And there's a lot that goes into that, because I can write a great book, but if nobody knows it exists, then
Exactly.
I wrote a great book, but it's collecting, virtual dust on Amazon. So, just being able to investigate and explore and try out these new skill sets that I've developed have also been really, really rewarding to me. This is the first time I have a job where it does not feel like work. I always thought that that was such a ridiculous saying. Oh, if you love what you do, it's not work. And I would always think, yeah, it is. Now I get it. Now I totally get it. I love what I do. Even the business side of it presents its own intellectual challenges that are different than the creative intellectual challenges. So I find that it is really fulfilling because I get to do a lot of different things. I wear a lot of different hats as an entrepreneur. So I stumbled into this, but it's been awesome. Really terrific.
Yeah. And I admire that so much about you, that you've really taken it all on, right? You're one of these women, obviously very, very sharp, who've been able to sort of say, yeah, that's right. When we think of an author, we think of just sitting there writing, and that's right. That's like anyone else creating a product, doing art. You can love what you do, but there's so much more. And you've just gone and said, 70% more is actually, that's right, publishing, marketing, distribution. How does it all work? Networking, presenting. There's so many aspects to modern business as an entrepreneur, and that's right, to make it on. And you would then have the choices to then outsource that, or to be able to take that on yourself. So the fact that you're actually writing, I think you said to me you're writing 10 books this year.
I did 12 last year. This year I'm only doing 6.
Okay. Only 6. So to be pumping out that many books and then being able to do all the rest of it as well, that's a massive juggle of time management, and then also being expertise, because all of those areas are niche levels of expertise, right? So you must have been on a massive learning curve over the last few years.
So I tell people I didn't come out the womb a teacher, even though I spent almost 16 years in the classroom. I do also have a graduate degree in political management, which is essentially PR. So I came into this with some understanding of how to create my strategic plan, even if I didn't write it down. I had some ideas on how to do that. I knew how to figure out my demographics and my target market and how to find them. So I came in with knowledge, skill sets, but not ones that I necessarily employed. Yeah. And so there was a learning curve to figuring out how to actually make those skills applicable beyond term papers and group assignments in school. But I had a keen sense for it. And ironically, my mom is actually a retired professor of international marketing, but I didn't go to her for any help because I totally entered into this as a secret. I did not tell anyone what I was doing. And so my mom and I have had conversations, since then. And she says she marvels at how I know things that she spent 30 years teaching other people. And I have to remind her, I do have some actual formal training in this. I didn't just figure it out. Yeah. I was fortunate in that I had some actual professional training, but that doesn't mean that political management entirely translates to authorship. So there was a lot of learning in that as well. That just, it took wherewithal and resolve and determination. So.
Absolutely. I know when we first met, Celeste, you told me an amazing fact that when you wrote your first book and you published it, you didn't even tell a soul. I'm talking your husband, your kids, your mom. You're like secret squirrels. typing away going, I'm just going to put it out to the universe. Why? How does that then equate with this modern woman now, Celeste, who knows all about publishing, marketing, making sure that everyone on the planet knows about her books?
So I would say I'm not a particularly whimsical person, but I wrote my first book on a whim. I'd started it August of 2017, and my husband was out of town for business, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to sit down. I'm going to write. So each night after the kids went to bed, I sat down and I started writing. And then the school year started and I was teaching, I was being a mom, and it just got pushed to the side. My husband's appendix ruptured in January 2018, and he spent 2 weeks in the hospital. And that was exhausting on so many levels for us, that when he was released from the hospital, I needed some kind of catharsis. I needed something that was just for me and not driving back and forth to the hospital and trying to juggle my kids and trying to work at the same time and worrying about him. I just needed a release that was mine. And I hadn't had anything that was just mine in a long time. I was somebody's wife because I'm married into the military. I was somebody's mom. I was somebody's teacher. This was something that was just mine. And I also am very type A, and I don't like to try things unless I know I'm going to do them well. So I don't want to tell anybody in case, I fell flat on my face and it was a flop. Also, I don't write content that is appropriate for the students that I taught. It's definitely very mature content. My mother's English, my dad is Moroccan. We don't talk about those things. So I wasn't really comfortable with being like, hey, mom, dad, look at this very explicit romance book that I wrote. So I just, my kids were and are still too young to discuss the topics of my books. And I just didn't want to fail in front of people, to be honest. That's what it really was. I wanted to see if I could do this. And once I knew I could do it, and by about book 3 is when things really took off, because I really started to learn the business side of it. Yes. When I did that, I was like, well, all right, well, I guess I'll tell people now.
Everyone should know about me now.
Yeah. So
in sharing that, Celeste, that's it. So many of us are like that. It is type A. It's that fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, fear of what on earth are you doing? All of that sort of stuff, which is just, it is normal and it's all right. Even super successful people, everyone has those feelings, right? And so for you, like, that was extreme. But I love that. And then that's right. How did it become so? There's a problem there though, because one, you don't tell anyone, but then how do you then make it successable? So, did you tell everybody else and your family just weren't that aware?
No. So as you said, I have a nom de plume, and thank you, Instagram, for outing me to my mother, because even though I have separate accounts between Facebook and Instagram, it suggested me to my mother. And so my mother was like, there's somebody using your face, but not your name. And I was like, well, I did that. Yeah, I did this thing. So, it kind of came out that way. And then again, even though they were totally separate accounts, Facebook through Instagram suggested me to a couple of my friends who were also colleagues. And so I was like, boy, well, okay, now I can't totally keep this a secret. I can't have this secret identity anymore. It's starting to come out a little bit. But for the most part, I really, up until this year, kept my real life and my work life very, very separate. I kind of came out with my regular Facebook a few months ago and was like, wow, by the way, I'm pretty good at what I do. And so I'm going to go ahead and tell you all. But a lot of it had to do with the fact that there's a lot of stereotypes to historical romance. And I was apprehensive about it, like people that I've known for 20, 30, almost 40 odd years, like I didn't know how they were going to react to it. And so that was part of that fear of failure, of not wanting to be looked down upon, not being mocked for it, oh, you can't write something serious in a better genre. Never mind the fact that romance is the top selling genre in all of
Yeah,
publishing.
of course. All those critics go and love it themselves, right?
Exactly. There was fear involved, but it has been so freeing to finally be like, yes, this is what I do, and I do it well. And I want to tell people about it, because if I hadn't had some authors take me by the sleeve and pull me along, I probably wouldn't have stuck with it. I certainly wouldn't have this as a full-time job. And so if I can kind of come out and say, hey, this is what I did, don't be afraid to give it a try, give it a go if this is what you want. And I don't mean specifically writing, but just in general, if I can help people to see that it's worth taking a leap of faith, and in yourself and with people around you, whether they're family or just acquaintances, it's worth trying it out. Give it a go. Have more faith in people than you think you can. That's a lesson I learned.
And that is excellent advice to all of those listening in. Absolutely. We're all about, empowering women. I'm into empowering women, empowering everybody just to own themselves, be themselves, support others, own your space, keep developing, try things out, and help each other. And I know you've been supported by people who've really helped you on your walk, and that's right. And I've got a group called Women Collaborating Globally, and that's exactly what that's all about. It's actually saying, how can we all help each other and support each other? So let's talk romance then. Why did you, yes, and we all do, who doesn't love Bridgerton or Outlander and really get into it, right? So did you choose romance because it is the top selling genre, or did you actually go, hey, you know what, I'm just a closet lover myself and I could just have so many books, on different topics?
So that's a multi-tiered question, or a multi-tiered set of answers. Ever since I was a kid, right before I would fall asleep, I'd kind of have like different scenes that would play out as though they could be story ideas. And I never did anything with it. I just let my imagination go. It was relaxing and I would fall asleep each night. And I have always been a very avid historical fiction reader. I was an English teacher and I was a social studies teacher. So in the rest of the world, that's history, civics, government, those types of things. I traveled extensively as a kid. And so I had a real passion for historical fiction. And I was recovering from surgery a few years ago, and there were only so many episodes of The Big Bang Theory that I could watch before I was like, I need something else. So on a whim, I picked up, downloaded my first historical romance. And I was like, oh, look, they're happy at the end. This is nice. And before I really kind of got into understanding the genre and the tropes, there was some like, are they going to end up together? And then I realized, oh, well, romance always has a happily ever after, or at least a happy for now. So I just started reading more and more of them. And eventually those sort of scenes that would play out in my head before bed were historical. And so I was like, if I have a rule that if a scene comes to me more than once, I have a story to write from that. And people often ask, what comes first, the characters or the plot? For me, it's very simultaneous. I can't say, oh, I come up with these people and then I want to know what they're going to do, or I have this idea of what they're going to do and then I come up with the people. For me, it's completely conjoined. There's no separating that out. So if a scene comes back to me more than once, then I know it's the foundation for a story. And then I go from there. And it may not be the opening scene. It could be smack dab in the middle, or what turns out to be the middle. But that's kind of how I get started. And so it was writing on a whim after, falling in love with the genre. And that was a stepping stone from historical fiction. So, yeah,
Wow. And now all your ex-year 9 students are sitting in the playground going, wow, who would have thought?
That's also why I have a pen name, was
Exactly. You don't want
what
to
I
sit
write
in
is
the local grocery store.
completely not appropriate for the grade levels I taught. So I knew I needed to keep those separate. And when I left my position and I told my colleagues, at the time it was book 15 that was coming out, I was like, I think it's time for me to do this full time. I did have a colleague come up and say, oh, well, are these books that we could get in our library? The kids would think it's so awesome. I was like, no. No.
No, you might get reported.
Yeah. So that
their
that
moms
was
will love them
though. So yeah, I like to keep that part.
I totally understand, and I love that because it's a whole other world, and you are one of those really interesting ladies who is just very 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 focused and very intentional in what you have done, right? So even the fact that you can lock yourself away for like 12 hours straight and just type and develop and create and not be distracted by anything, I think that's absolutely amazing.
Well, I look at it this way. I set quantifiable and qualifiable goals. They might be long-term of I want to write 12 books in 12 months, or it can be I need to write 10,000 words today, which is about 40 double-spaced pages. Authors talk in words, everybody else talks in pages. But if I set that as my goal, then I know that that's what I need to do. And I do hold myself accountable to that. And so if there's not a really good reason for not completing that task, then it needs to get done. And so setting those goals of saying, okay, I can quantify how much I need to do, but I can also qualify it by knowing I'm going to feel like I've accomplished what I need to for today. I know I'm moving in the right step for the deadline that I've set. So I pull chunks that are achievable. I don't set myself these grandiose goals that I set myself up to fail for. I set myself up for goals that are accomplishable, and then I set out and I do them.
Yeah.
But I think that's, and I don't write everything down. I do have to-do lists, but some people like to write all their goal setting. It's rumbling around in here for me, but it happens every day. Even if I don't realize that I'm goal setting, I am. And so that's a habit that is ingrained in me that I think is one of the traits of successful people. They know what they want to get done and need to get done by the end of the day, so that outside distractions don't pull them off task, or they don't get pulled off for very long. So I think that that's something that's really intrinsic to people who are highly productive.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the consistency and it's the discipline, isn't it? That's right. So you've got those goals and you go, they're realistic, they're achievable, but hello, I have to do them. I have to get in there. I have to apply myself. I have to stay focused, and then I will then get the benefits, and then I get to enjoy all the rest of, the things that I want to do. Whereas if you don't have that, it's then the procrastination or the frustration, I didn't get this done. And then sort of, it sort of all unravels. So, I agree. People who are successful learn that very quickly. That you go, yeah, don't set yourself up to fail. Work out what is achievable for you. And as you have said, you've built those skill sets. Whenever you do something regularly, you will get better at it, right? That's just the way it is if you apply yourself. And so you'll end up becoming more and more productive, and either write more, or in other areas of business you can actually have some more time off because you're more efficient. So it depends on how you want to run your life, right?
And that is true. I was picked up by a hybrid publisher at the end of last year because she noticed me and she knew I was a good investment because I am disciplined and I am highly motivated. And as a result, I have been able to outsource some of the advertising and marketing components that I used to have to do single-handedly. I've also picked up an agent recently to work on my audio and foreign rights, so that that's something that I don't have to do single-handedly. I have
Yeah.
3 audiobooks that I negotiated on my own, and it was enough to catch this agent's eye. And so even though some of the work has been taken off my shoulders, the only reason why it was because I got noticed for how determined and disciplined I was in what I produced.
Yeah.
So, the upside of it is that eventually you can, kind of disperse the load and
Yeah.
be able to find other people to help you out. But you have to establish yourself first as somebody that's worth their time and their effort.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
the discipline is really important. So I'm really fortunate.
Yeah, absolutely, you are, and I think you've outlined that business growth plan for any entrepreneur, that we all start by having to do it all, and it's important to learn the mechanics of what is required and to know what you're also outsourcing, because you still want to have control over it. You just don't want some things to be, taking up your time and energy. And some areas too, that is someone's expertise. It's a much better investment to get them to do that so that you can do your writing. And I also love what you shared there. That's right. For, a publisher or for other people, that's right. You become bankable because you're dependable. Those people, they don't want to invest in someone who's going to suddenly turn up with a book in 2 years, 3 years. They actually want to go, okay, well, if Celeste has been given this investment, then she will produce the goods in a very, very dependable time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like any business relationship. It needs to be mutually beneficial. And if it's not, and it's because of me, I'm going to get dropped. And I don't want to get dropped because that means that I've got to go back to doing everything on my own. And I can, but I'm not in a stage where I want to anymore, when I know that I can outsource it and have assistance and help with that. And that's what I would prefer. But being dependable, being highly productive, being reliable are all things that have gotten me to this point. And those are all skills that had to be fine-tuned and honed over a lifetime of maturing and experience and things like that. But it's benefiting me now. Yeah.
So now you're an absolute queen of historical romance. Would you try a different genre? Does it interest you to go, you know what, let's write? What about other areas? Could I become more diverse?
Yes, actually, it's interesting you should ask that, because at first I didn't really think that I was going to want to write anything other than historical romance. I was set on that and I was happy with it. But recently I was approached with an opportunity to write a sort of women's fiction upmarket genre book. If you're not familiar with the term up genre, it's kind of between literary fiction and commercial fiction.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of in that middle ground. And so my parents and I are immigrants. We arrived when I was a baby in the US, but I have, other than my parents who live in the US now, I have no other family, not only in the US, but in this hemisphere. So,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
it is my husband, my kids, my in-laws, but on my side, it's just them. And so having a mom who's English and a dad who is Moroccan, being half English is fine. Being half Moroccan is a little difficult in the US, and it has had peaks and troughs. And so one of the books that I'm starting to work on is a fictionalized account of my life, basically, sort of from Desert Storm on, and what it's been like to be, half Arab American. I won't be writing that under the pen name that I have now. And I also do have a World War II series that's rumbling around in my head that would be purely historical fiction. And rather than, sort of Band of Brothers, Stephen Ambrose up on the front lines, boom, 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 I'm looking at it from MI5, MI6. So I'm going to have 2 stories that are linked to MI5, which was domestic intelligence for Great Britain during World War II, and MI6, which was the spies and espionage internationally.
Wow.
So I am looking to branch out a bit. I didn't think that I was originally going to, but again, opportunities have presented themselves because of what I've accomplished already. And
Yeah.
so I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth.
Absolutely not. And I love that. I love that when you actually, you then keep leaning into what you're wanting to do. And then you think this is it. And then you're like so excited. I bet you were just beyond excited with 3 books, 6 books, 10 books, 15 books. And then now it's like, oh, different genres, movie deals. Who doesn't want a movie deal? We could all be watching, your amazing.
I would love that. If there's any agents out there, I'm available to talk.
Let's just put it out there, and that's it. Put it out there. We should be, if you know someone, definitely reach out to Celeste, because this is, exactly what we need to do to try and, help each other to be able to make these amazing things happen. And the whole world of audiobooks, that's right. Once we start leaning into our success, you realize how infinite it is, right? For you now, you must just be sitting there going, wow, the world's my oyster. You could go in so many ways.
It's so surreal to think that I have 27 books out that people read. I would have quit a long time ago if there was no demand. I wouldn't keep supplying.
Yeah.
But I have these 27 books, and I have 3 audiobooks already produced, 10 in the works. I have the possibility for switching genres. Like, it never dawned on me 4 years ago that this could be, a possibility.
Yeah.
My first series, when it ended, I felt like a total empty nester. Like, I was like, I sent my last kid off to college. And then I thought, well, write the next series. And the first probably like 15 books that I released, each release day, it was like, they're the new kid. Are they going to have somebody to sit with and eat with at lunch? Like, are they going to make friends? It felt like I was sending my child off into the world. And now it's not so angsty on release day. I have other processes in place so that I know things are going to go smoothly, but it is surreal. I never thought that this is what I would do. And I never imagined that I would have the size readership that I do.
Yeah.
It really is kind of mind-boggling to know that, I've sold more than 50,000 copies of my books, something like that, in the space of 3 years, when that exceeds many authors' lifetime sales.
Yeah.
So, and I've just gotten started. I have plenty of time. I'm still
Exactly.
like a toddler in the business. I have plenty of time. I'm hitting milestones that I can appreciate and that drive me towards the next one.
Oh my goodness. You certainly are. You are kicking butt, girl. And your hubby must have such a window into your soul. Does he sit there in bed reading it going, hello, sweetheart?
Yeah, he actually hasn't read any of my books all the way through. And it's not because he isn't supportive. It's just, it's not his cup of tea, which I'm fine with. I am not insulted by that at all. I think in some ways for me, it almost is easier that he doesn't, because I don't have to be like, oh, does he think I'm wasting my time with this? Like, does he think I'm talented? He just is like, good for you. Keep going. You love this. It's bringing in the income that you want. So go ahead. Okay. So no, he doesn't read my books, but maybe when I write the World War II series, he might be more inclined to
go, oh, that's something I'd really like. That is so fantastic.
Macho for him. So, but yes, just not an avid reader. And honestly, with the content that I write, it's easier when people I know don't read my books. That's an insight.
Well, I want all of our listeners to read your books. So let's tell everyone how, can you give us an example of one of your books? How do we find you, Celeste? How do we just get engrossed? And let's face it, if you're going to love one of Celeste's books, she's got many, many. That's what I love it. When you get into like a series on something, you go, well, I've got more. There's more of this style. So how do they find you?
And I do write in series. I have a 6-book Scottish Highlander series. That was my first one. I have a 5-book Viking series. I have a 4-book pirate series. And then I just released book 12 out of a planned 15 for the Highland ladies. So you can go to my website, celestebarclay.com, and you can find a listing of the books and links there. You can go to Amazon and you will find me there, paperbacks and ebooks. You can search for me on Goodreads. You can search for me on BookBub. You can just Google me and I will come up. But, you know, I like to say that I fuse history and STEAM together. You know, a lot of people do have preconceived notions about what romance is, and there's nothing wrong with Fabio, but he's not on any of my covers. You know, it's not the stereotypical bodice rippers. You know, my really long series, The Highland Ladies, each book has some type of social consciousness, social justice undertone to it. You know, one of them really explores misogyny, another one explores body dysmorphia, another one explores alcoholism, unwed mothers. There's something, ethnocentrism, there's something relatable to the modern woman that is still genre and historically appropriate in that series. And I set out to really have one topic per book. So that's the books that are on the top shelf that you can see. And then if I swivel a little bit, you can see my Viking series and you can see one of my pirates. So, you know, if you love a little bit of adventure with your history, then give me a try, you know, check me out. And those people who sign up for my newsletter get a free copy of my first Viking book anyway. So that's a great way to test the water.
Absolutely. Everybody, drop onto celestebarclay.com, sign up for her newsletter, get yourself a free read to get you started. And I am sure you're going to be absolutely captivated. And in the book that she's produced, and how captivating has it been just sharing with you today on this podcast? You are such a fascinating woman and so beautifully talented. I love supporting women and hearing about women's stories that they have just, you know, backed themselves. And it's hard. It's hard to believe in yourself. It's hard to back yourself. It's hard to make those big decisions. Sometimes, like Celeste, you know, you have to then not even tell anyone so that you're just big and brave all by yourself. I don't encourage that, everybody, you know. but you know, it's okay. You know, you don't have to be perfect first time around. But I love the journey that you've had, and I love that inner desire that has just fueled you. And what I also love is tapping into that creativity that you've always had. I love that you shared that you used to have, you know, it's tapping into your imagination. And that's thing, we've always had it. You look at any child, they've all got stories going around their head. They're in make-believe, they're creative. And you just want to encourage that. You know, there's so much value in tapping into your child nature, and for you, it's allowed us to just come.
I stifled it for so long because of academic pursuits and professional ambitions and other fields, and I didn't really think I was that creative until I allowed myself to use my imagination again. You know, kids have it every day, and then by the time they're in secondary school, it starts to get fizzled out. And so being able to find it again has been really freeing to me, and it's just exciting to me. There's more there than I realized or gave myself credit for. And so, you know, that's one of my things that I want to share with women. And it's not writing specific. It's that allow yourself to explore those things that you don't think you can do, because you probably can. And you won't know if you don't try. But whether it's a monetary success or just an inner success, let yourself explore. And it doesn't have to be full time. It can be a hobby. It can be something you dabble at, but engage that with yourself and give yourself the credit that you deserve, because nobody else will if you don't start.
Exactly. Just start, just take a step towards, and that's it. Learn on the way, ask for feedback. There's a lot of author coaches who will help you, you know,
if there's anybody out there listening, you can contact me through my website. You can find me on Facebook and message me. I really try to get back to people within like 24 hours because I have been so fortunate with the authors that have mentored me that if I can help somebody, don't hesitate. I will get back to you because it's the least I can do to give back a little bit for all that I've received.
Yeah. So. And that's an incredible offer. And so I encourage people to do that because that's it. I know a lot of people that I coach, they get stuck in this, I really want it. I think about it regularly. It burns in my heart. It's such a shame I can't. And whereas you're going to go, yeah, just take a step, just do it, and then just the whole world explodes. And it doesn't mean you're going to be an international seller first time, it just means, but the learning and the growth. And I love that freedom that you've tapped into, you're happy, you can feel your energy, right?
I really am.
Flow, and you just go at the end of the day, that's right, you've got freedom to just be and to continue fine-tuning your craft, seeing what other opportunities there are in there, opens you up to a whole network of people who are in your space and understand you. There's so many benefits from being able to just blossom in.
I've been so fortunate, I really have. So I'm excited for whatever is to come. I don't know what that is yet. It'll present itself when it's ready, but I definitely have been very, very fortunate, and I can truly say it's not work. It's something I love doing.
Well, I think you should send your books to the cast of Outlander, and they should definitely see it. Very much a spin-off series there because I was a big fan. So I think I'll be a big
fan for that. If anybody knows anybody, by all means, I'll send it out to whomever.
Exactly.
But, I would love that. A whole nother conversation, but I've already cast most of my books, so I already know who I need for various characters, so it won't take long. I promise we can get production going soon.
Well, watch this space, guys, and I'll be thrilled to be re-interviewing you in just maybe a couple more years, talking about your first experience in that area of film. And exactly, it's so exciting. Well, thank you so much for sharing me on Memoirs of Successful Women today. It's been absolute delight. I think you're an incredible star, and just keep doing what you're doing. And definitely I'm gonna start reading some more and have a bit of escape time myself, so why not?
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed myself. I have loved having a conversation with you, and thank you for the opportunity because it's been a lot of fun for this past hour. It feels like 5 minutes. So.
It sure does. We can talk all day, but thanks so much. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Memoirs of Successful Women. You can find me at anniegibbins.com, where you can download my free resources, get connected on social, and check out my online magic transformation program. If you love this show, feel free to subscribe to future episodes, and of course, share it with your friends. I'll see you again soon, and until then, happy podcasting.